There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned in to the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. That guy over there, well, that's Tim Dennis. Hello, Tim.
Howdy.
All right. We've got a lot to cover because, I had to go film a TV series, special, actually not a series, but a one-off special. And we kind of pre-recorded. So we've got about a week and a half, 2 weeks worth of news. We got a lot of news to cover. So we've got a brand new Theater of the Mind coming up today.
You know what we also have, Dave?
What do we have, Tim?
We have a phone call.
We have a phone call?
Yeah.
Christmas. So we've got a phone call. We've got Theater of the Mind. We've got a ton of news stories. And not one, Tim. Not two. But I'm making you work for your living this week. We have 3 audio daily double news stories. So it's like 3 more Parashares. How about that?
That's pretty impressive to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm almost thinking we should put our phone call off to next week because we've got so much audio. But no, they called. We asked for it. We're playing their call. As a matter of fact, let's start off the episode right, Tim. Let's go to a caller. Remember, if you want to be a part of the show, our Voices from Beyond voicemail, 651-300-4977. That's 651-300-4977. And leave your story just like this caller.
Hey, Dave and Tim, what's up? It's Wayne from outside of Chicago. I just was listening to your app, and I heard this guy who wrote a book called Divine and Demons, and it made me think of some more stories to tell you guys. I used to live in a townhome that was haunted, and I think it was haunted by a female spirit who overdosed. And there was a lot of stories I could tell, but I'll just tell this one for now. I used to party, let's say. One time I was coming home through the back door, and I saw a shadow person go flying past me to the bedroom, like it was, waiting for me. And I've heard, from stories and stuff that they connect to people who are drunk or whatever you might be on, and try to get that feeling again. But then I was also thinking about how there's jealous spirits, because I got the same spirit on tape whispering my name. And one time it started to write my name on my wife's shoulder, the first 3 letters. And that freaked me out. I got a picture of that. And it's also, it sounded like it threw pebbles around the room one time. I lit a Jesus candle, and it was so loud, I thought the TV was going to break. It sounded like someone whipped pebbles on the front door, the wall, the TV, in a big circle. It was very loud. But another thing I wanted to say is one time I was calling on my guardian angels to try to heal someone, and I laid hands on her, and I asked to be, a conduit of God's power to heal. And she started shaking and speaking in tongues. And we also sensed a strong energy right next to the bed. We could tell exactly where it was. And it almost felt like how magnets push, and kind of like a buzzing of electricity. It's really hard to explain, but it was very powerful, and you could tell right where it was. And when she started speaking in tongues, it freaked me out, so I just stopped right there. even though, and she was scared of the feeling too, because she sensed it. So I just, I just put that down. I couldn't figure out if it was good or bad, really. At first I thought for sure it's good because I'm calling on my guardian angels. But, I love you guys. It's good to hear your show on, the app on you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for calling in to share your story. We always appreciate that. We've got email open, so you can always email me, dave@darknessradio.com, with your paranormal encounters as well. We want to hear of, also, Theater of the Mind. We love your stories. If you take the time to write it out as a narrative, about 2 to 3 pages long, spaced out and in paragraph form, so it's not one just giant block of text that I have to try to word through, we will use that and produce it, and it'll be on an episode of Darkness Radio on a Parashare Supernatural News Day. You'll get to hear your story featured. We have one of those coming up a little bit later on in today's program. Tim, I got to go film a special.
Really?
How would you like me to let you know where we filmed that special right now?
Oh, please. I would like that. Yeah.
I can't, Tim. You know better than that. It's
Oh,
TV.
come on. You're just as bad as these people who write in and go, but that's for another day, Dave. Oh, but that's for another time, Dave. Oh, but I'll just continue it some other time, Dave. Oh, you know what, Dave? I just think I'll tease you a little bit more, Dave. You know what, Tim? I like you, but only as a friend, Tim. Oh, you're nice and cuddly, Tim. I can tell you anything, Tim. Oh, you know what? You're such a good friend, Tim.
Wow. Somebody's working through some issues today.
Maybe a little bit, just a little bit, but go ahead.
Here. All right. I can't tell you because it's a special, but I will tease this aspect of it.
Okay.
I get to do something I've never done or tried before. No, not sushi, Tim.
Cocaine?
No. We have a good friend of ours that's a part of this special. They'd asked me, would you like to work with a medium? And I'm like, yes. And they said, do you have a person you work well with? And I said, yes. And I said, we've never been on a show together. We've been on a show together, but not worked together on it. So this is something long time coming. A guy I trust and love like a brother. I was excited to get him to be a part of the project with us. Once it airs, he's going to come on and we're going to dig deeper into the story and the very high strangeness of this. So working with him, he opened me up to something I'd never considered.
Butt sex.
And it was terrifying. I can't tell you because I want people to watch it. It was terrifying and exhilarating. And did I mention terrifying? It was one of those holy shit minutes that you have in your life that, like, the thrill is there. And then I have a lot of regrets afterwards because I wish I wouldn't have fought so hard against the experience. I wish I would have let it just flow.
Gotta be butt sex.
No.
Oh,
no.
All right.
No, but no, I don't fight that. It's the 21st century. Love is love.
It is, yeah.
I don't know, man. I was so in the moment, and it was, like I said, it was exhilarating, exciting, and terrifying. And I think I have this kind of disassociative feeling about that moment. I feel like I was outside of myself witnessing this, and that made it even more terrifying to me. So
really?
I wish I could tell you more, but you'll see once you see the episode why I don't want to ruin that moment. Plus, in TV edit, I don't know if they're going to show the whole thing or they'll just show a segment. But it was really great. We also got to work with 2 other individuals. One that kind of brought us into this project because the EVP that was collected at this location was reported to be bonkers. And I love EVP, but I'm also extremely skeptical of EVP.
Yeah.
So I was, I don't know this, and then they wouldn't let me hear it till I got on set. So I had no clue how good this EVP was. And Tim, this EVP is insanely good. This is stuff that would leave you scratching your head going, oh, wow. Yeah, there's no denying what we're capturing. It was really intense. And then we invited in another person who was kind of a surprise person. At first, we thought we were just going to have him kind of catch us up on the history of this location, but it turns out he has direct ties to the story itself, and shit goes off the rails. It was exciting. It was emotional, because during the filming of this, there's so much I want to say I can't say. During the filming of this, something very personal happens to one of the team members. And it really brings things into perspective. So it's a very cool deal. I'm interested to see how it cuts together, and which because it was so much.
Okay.
I don't know what do you pare it down to? This was almost like living in a Conjuring movie. That's how it felt to me. There was so much high weirdness going on, but in different ways. So it'll be interesting to see play out. But that was exciting. I also thought, since we're kind of talking about this, for people that don't know, Holzer Files is back on Discovery Plus. We have first brand new episode dropped last Saturday. And as a matter of fact, this Thursday, Tim, I'm doing a Facebook Live session with Chris Emery, who was featured in the episode Forever Home. And it's one of my favorite episodes of the season. It was very creepy, and we capture. Did you get a chance to watch it yet, or no?
Not yet. No, I haven't.
We capture one of the most terrifying. No, I can't say that. It's not terrifying. It's fascinating pieces of evidence. Usually you say, well, you caught this. That's terrifying. But it is such an exciting piece of evidence. And the response from the interwebs, Tim, the people out there, the faceless millions, love it. And we're absolutely flipped out by what we caught. And there is a dramatic poor Shane moment that happens in that episode. So if you haven't watched it, Discovery Plus, still on the fence post about it, try it for free. You get a 7-day free trial, but wait until this weekend for the next episode to drop, because if you think poor Shane had a rough time last week, wait till you see what happens to poor Dave, not once but twice in this next episode, in an episode that nearly sent me to the hospital. That's where I'm going to leave it, Tim.
Okay.
But this Thursday, we're going to do a live Facebook stream and live YouTube stream on my Darkness Radio channels. We're going to be talking with Chris Emery, the man that grew up there. Now, Chris is fascinating because not only did he grow up in this haunted house, he went on to a very cool career. He worked at the White House under 4 presidential administrations. As a matter of fact, he's written a book about it and has endorsements from these presidents, a photograph of himself with the presidents. It's pretty cool. So we're going to talk to him about his experiences, and I'm going to try to see if I can get him to talk about the ghosts of the White House, having been there, boots on the ground, talking to people. What does he know about the haunted history of the White House? So we will find out. That's this week. Chris Emery, my special guest on Holzer's Ghosts, the live video stream. Friday, it'll be an audio podcast form here for all of our Darkness Radio listeners. How's that, Tim? I'm a giver that keeps on giving.
Well, I would hate for you to be a giver that keeps on taking, because that would be an oxymoron. So I don't want you to be a moron. So
did you just call me a moron?
No. I said I would hate for you to be a moron. I'm glad you're not a moron. I'm glad you're a giver that keeps on giving. That means that you are a good person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And because I like to toot my own horn, Tim, toot toot. We have a story coming up a little bit later in today's program. I'm on another TV show that's out right now on Discovery Plus as well. I'll appear in 3 episodes, the first 2 of which have already dropped. We'll talk about that. We've got a lot. Here's a weird thing. When I fish through the news, we usually get a pretty good smattering of weird monster stories and UFO stories and ghost stories. Mm-hmm. This week is packed with ghost stories. I mean, like, packed with ghost stories. I don't know if something's happened in the last couple of weeks here, but the ghosts are rebelling. They're coming out swinging. And let's start off with one of those stories right now. Tim, are you familiar with the British show Peaky Blinders?
Peaky Blinders. Can't say that I am.
Very, very good show. Very cool kind of detective show, right? Mm-hmm. From England. You'll find it on Netflix and I think a couple other deals. But a recent episode was interrupted during filming, Tim. And here's the story. While the cast and crew of the TV series Peaky Blinders were at Arley Hall in Cheshire, England, filming their new season, they got an unexpected and very creepy disruption. While filming at the mansion, the crew was interrupted by barking sounds coming from the hallways. The problem, Tim, there aren't any dogs in, on, or around the property there. The hall was first built back in 1469, and that was, 2 years before we started Darkness Radio.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
The first hall was built back in 1469, and the current one has been standing since its construction that took from 1832 to 1845 to complete. Now, according to the legend, a former owner of the home was killed by his pet when the dog misidentified him as an intruder. The gamekeeper then had to shoot the dog. The man and his pet were buried side by side, but apparently the dog is not resting in peace, as it will attack any man who has a beard or anyone who is wearing clothes that look similar to the gamekeeper's outfit. And since some of the actors in the series wear suits similar to the gamekeepers, the atmosphere is a little eerie at times. A source familiar with the set explained this further. The set is where Killian's character, Tommy Shelby, lives. Killian has had to be channeling Tommy even more so, not to show he's a scaredy cat, adding, "It's funny because the Shelby men wear nice suits just like the gamekeeper used to." The source went on to say, a few of the crew think that they have heard some howling in the old corridors. It's especially creepy as a few of the shoots have been at late night. There's a certain irony that made a lot of people smile, that these gangsters who brandish guns and kill people could be spooked by just a ghost dog. The ghostly dog isn't the only entity allegedly haunting Arley Hall, though. The apparition of an older person smoking a pipe has also been seen. Being at a haunted location is a frightening enough experience, but having to worry about a ghost dog attacking anyone wearing a suit or sporting a beard is quite terrifying, especially since the creature actually did kill a human while it was alive. So there you go. Peaky Blinders interrupted by a ghostly demon dog, Tim.
You know, my sister's dog does the same thing with men with beards. She doesn't like men with beards. She gets to a point of a frothing rage.
Really?
Yeah. In fact, the only exception is my brother-in-law. Does not. He keeps his stubble short. Doesn't bark at him. But when I come over, if I'm the only guy with facial hair, she'll bark at me. But if my brother-in-law's brother comes over, she absolutely will lose it. Like she'll love me because I've got the shorter of the two as far as facial hair. He's got
so like the lesser of two evil facial hair. Right.
He's got like the real long Fu Manchu goatee. Oh. You know, that goes long, like all the way down to almost like the top of his belly.
Right.
And she goes absolutely nuts. Like she's
got good taste. She doesn't like bad facial hair.
Well, it's like and the only way to describe it, I guess, this is the way that a pet psychologist described it. It's an anxiety. It's not actual rage. It's an anxiety.
Do you think that in her past life, this dog was murdered by a man with a beard, or was perhaps a man with a beard murdered by another man with a beard, or perhaps a woman with a beard that was murdered by a dog with a beard that was witnessed by a man with a beard?
If it wasn't that, then in a current life might have been because she's a rescue. She might have been abused by someone with a beard. Yeah.
No bueno, senor.
Yeah.
All right, a Marilyn Monroe lookalike is in the news, Tim. She lives in the actress's former home and has claimed the Hollywood mansion is being haunted by the late icon's ghost. Jasmine Chiswell, age 25, from Lanarkshire, Scotland, is a dead ringer for the film star and took social media by storm last year after she began sharing video tours of the home that she and Joe DiMaggio shared in the 1950s, she being Marilyn Monroe. Appearing on the This Morning Today, she claimed to have had paranormal experiences in the house, including hearing weird voices and footsteps, and that guests in the house have felt a presence hugging them. Yeah, Tim, a huggy ghost.
Aw, I need one of those.
Appearing on the program, she said, "There's been so many weird things that have been happening. My husband and I have tried to debunk the things we hear, but so many people have experiences, we just can't explain them all away. People feel like they're getting hugged. We've heard some weird voices. We've heard footsteps every single night, and it happens all the time." Determined to debunk the theory, Jasmine and her husband checked whether the noise could be coming from the road outside or animals before turning to paranormal investigators for the answers. She explained, "We've tried everything. We've tried driving different cars to see if it's the road. We had the house checked to see if it was the animals, but we don't know where it's coming from. We're both just not sure. But we've had a psychic over who believes it is her, Marilyn, and Joe DiMaggio, and possibly a third ghost that likes to play tricks." The blogger, who has amassed an impressive 616,000 followers on Instagram. Tim, that is 615,000 more than I have.
615,000 more than you have?
She has 616,000 followers. I'm just kidding. When I only have 1,000 followers, she's got quite a bit more. Anyway, she moved to LA 3 years ago after acting in various BBC kids shows and doing a master's degree in acting. She purchased the Mediterranean-style home, which she said still boasts original light fixtures, art, bathtubs, tiling, and even towels from when Marilyn lived there. She also credited her husband with giving her the confidence to embrace her love of the film star, revealing, "I think at the time, I was so scared of doing something different. He's helped me in so many ways, and he's just like, go put yourself out there and do it." And we go vintage shopping together. Speaking of her impressive social media following, Jasmine said, "It's so crazy. I did not expect to have that amount of following. It's just been a crazy journey." Yeah, I can't figure out why a stunning blonde who looks like Marilyn Monroe might have a huge following. That's the paranormal part of the story, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, Marilyn was absolutely hideous. I have no idea why people would have followed her. I mean, you know, geez. Yeah.
That's kids were just joking about. She also unveiled some surprising discoveries, including the star's signature on the ceiling and magazines from 1953, a period during Marilyn's short-lived marriage to baseball player Joe DiMaggio. Or as Tim and I grew up to know him, what was his nickname? Mr. Coffee.
Yeah, Mr.
Right?
Coffee. Yeah.
According to Jasmine, the paw print of Marilyn's beloved dog, Maff, can be seen in one of the rooms of her home. The Maltese Terrier was given to her by Frank Sinatra to comfort her after she split from her husband, Arthur Miller. Built in 1938, the walled and gated home overlooks a 160-acre park, Runyon Canyon, and boasts 4 bedrooms, 4.5 bathrooms, a tower room now used as an office, and a living room with a wood-beamed ceiling. The 3,335 square foot house also includes a 2-car garage, a grotto-like pool, and spa on the 8,228 square foot grassy lot. According to property records, the home was listed for sale in late December of 2018 for $2.695 million, Tim.
Oh, piece of cake. I'll go get that out of the bank. We'll go.
You can't. It sold in February last year for $2.727 million.
Oh.
$32,000 over the asking price. The house is part of one of Hollywood's most intense and short-lived relationships. Marilyn began dating Joe DiMaggio, center fielder for the New York Yankees, back in March of '52, just a few months after he had retired from baseball. He was 36 at the time. Do you ever notice that people back then, his 36 looks like 54 today?
Yeah. People aged very quickly back then.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I look at some of these pictures and movies, and I'm like, wow, and then you find out, this woman who looked like she was 80 at the time had just celebrated her 38th birthday when she starred in, and you're like, what?
Yeah, you look at Tom Brady at 43, and then you look at Joe DiMaggio at 36, and there's no comparison.
Not even close.
Yeah.
That September, Marilyn began filming Billy Wilder's The 7-Year Itch, which includes the legendary scene of her standing on a New York subway grate as steam blows up her white dress. During the summer of 52, Marilyn and DiMaggio began to date more regularly, and then on New Year's Eve of 1953, old Joltin' Joe DiMaggio asked her to marry him. On October 27th, 1954, just 9 months after the wedding, Marilyn stood before a judge and detailed her reasons for her divorce petition. She said DiMaggio was cold and indifferent to her, and that days would go by when he wouldn't even speak to her. DiMaggio didn't make an appearance, and the divorce was eventually granted. So it seems that, I don't know, it seems that she is still haunting her past home, and weird things are taking place. I'm going to put this video or this story up so people can see her eerie resemblance to Marilyn. But she also has a couple of videos on there discussing the strange things she's heard. So you can actually hear her speak and share her ghost stories. So that story will be up. Go to darknessradio.com, click on the news tab, and you'll find every Wednesday we put up news that is featured on that episode. So you can go see some of these stories that have photographs, video, and audio. So you can go check them out for yourself there, Tim.
There you go.
Speaking of audio, Tim.
Yeah.
Is this Idaho home haunted? Well, before you answer, let Tim and I tell you a little bit about it. This past week, KBOI reporter Brian Morin played his guitar and then experienced something extremely odd. He was recording a jam to share with some guitar-playing friends on Facce Book, Tim, when an unexplained object came into view. Let's go ahead and hear his story right from himself.
A lot of us like to watch those shows where ghost hunters chase things that go bump in the night, hoping to see something that proves ghosts exist.
Well, CBS 2's Brian Morin had something very strange happen in his home this past week. And now he's reaching out to paranormal investigators to find out what's going on.
So I'm playing my guitar on my day off, and this happens. Did you see it? Let's watch it in slow motion. What in the world is that? My daughter had 3 friends over, and my 2 dogs were with them in my daughter's room. I was absolutely alone when that happened.
The dogs were right by us. They were chasing my friends, and we all came in single file, and it literally was just like this. And then we went into my room and shut the door.
We only walked on the hardwood, and the dogs just followed us in there, and we shut the door.
I just remember that they were kind of with us the whole time.
Let's reconstruct what happened. First, the position of the cell phone. That looks pretty good right there. The object comes in from the right to the left, parallel to the floor. Then it shoots upward in an arc, blocking 3/4 of the painting on the wall as it leaves the screen in the opposite direction than it came from. Let's see if we can recreate that. I was standing all the way over here when it happened. Let's measure it. That's a good 7.5 feet away from any dogs or kids. This is for the skeptics. The girls passed through about 15 seconds before the object appeared. They were already in my daughter's room with the dogs and the door closed.
We only walked on the hardwood.
Now let's examine the distance from the object to the cell phone. After many attempts of trying to figure out where this thing actually is, this is where it appears to be. The guitar represents where I was standing. It's kind of in between the couch and where the guitar is. It comes into frame, arcs up and out. The perspective looks about right. Something else to point out, I don't even notice it even though it's right in front of me. I called Big River Paranormal for their reaction to the video.
All I can say is it's interesting. I told you there could be many different possible logical explanations for the photo. However, I wasn't there. However, based on our further conversations that evening, I do think that an investigation would be warranted. And that's something that we would be willing to do once COVID restrictions lift and it's safe for everyone.
Okay, you think it's one of my dogs? Whoopers is brown, similar to the object, but she is 14 and slides out of furniture. She couldn't possibly get that high off the ground. And Biscuit, he's white. Clearly the wrong color. And I don't own a cat. Brian Morin, CBS 2 News.
So, wow. First of all, a couple observations for you real quick. Mm-hmm.
Please. Yeah, I was wondering, and I'll weigh in on what I see when you're done, but please.
Okay, so Brian, a little bit of a racist. He's white,
Right.
calling out the dog. Second, way to go, Big River Paranormal. Way to be decisive there. However, we might get around to. Come on, don't commit on camera.
What?
They're a little wishy-washy when they got on camera. I love a good.
No. I see. I love her response because I get the same feeling when people send me a clip.
Yeah,
I can look at it and say, "Well, that's fascinating." I can tell you logically what might have caused this, but not having been there, I don't want to completely dismantle the piece and say it's not real.
I have the benefit of looking into her eyes and watching the video, though. It's
right.
Just, she has this kind of deer in the headlight look when she says it, kind of like.
I think it's because she's feeling like I am looking at it. To me, okay, now when he pulls back, you see that there's a couch right over there.
Mm-hmm.
This, as soon as I saw it, it looked like one of my kids laying on the couch on their stomach, kind of kicking their legs up back and forth in the air. It looks like a foot. The toes are pointing down. You could see the arch and the heel. So he claims there was nobody there. I got to take him at his word for it. I mean, he's news, and we know news is real, Tim. All news is real.
Well,
but I can't figure out, to me, it looks like somebody kicked their foot up.
Yeah.
But I've got this good news, Tim. I've got the story up on our news website so people can go see it for themselves. Please weigh in, folks. Have you seen a spectral foot kicking their heels up during a man playing guitar before? Maybe this is a phenomenon we're just not familiar with, Tim.
Maybe, yeah. I will give him this. He had a decent setup there. It was a nice strat he was playing.
Yeah.
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 He must make decent money there at the station.
Must be doing okay for themselves for darn tootin'.
Yeah.
All right, we've got some more stories to share. Remember, go check out darknessradio.com. Click on the news tab, and there you'll find all of these news stories. And we've got a lot of normally we put up like 3 or 4 news stories a week because the rest don't have links and videos and audio. This week I've got a lot that are going to be put up there. So go check it out for yourself. This next story will also be up there. A parked motorcycle, one of them, they're motorized bicycles, Tim.
Bicycles, you say?
Yeah, it's becoming viral in a CCTV video. Unbelievable. That's what Twitter is saying. A video of a parked bike moving all by itself is going viral on the Twitter. It's going to send a chill down your spine for sure, according to the author of this article. Twitter user Amber Zaidi posted a 30-second clip, and social media users were left stunned, Tim, after watching the mysterious clip, with several commenting that it could be some sort of paranormal activity. This story's up. Now, just to kind of show you, it's CCTV. You're looking in what looks to be an alleyway. To the left, there's a couple of bicycles on a pedestal, and then on the right, there's a motor bicycle in the foreground, and then you see a door frame, and then another motor bicycle on the other side of that door frame. And then all of a sudden, you're like, the video's like all of 30 seconds. About 20 seconds in, you just see that motor bicycle just start to move by itself, and it does like a U-turn. Now, Tim, I ain't never been on one of them, their motor bicycles. I don't know how they work. If you park them wrong and you tilt the front wheel wrong, could the kickstand release and all of a sudden the bike could just take off on its own? I don't know. But it sure looks like it's in a full parked slot, and then all of a sudden it just picks up and moves. And it's one of them, they're heavy motor bicycles. And I'm not talking like a Vespa scooter, Tim.
I see.
I'm talking like a big old motorcycle. I don't know the brand. It's just very dark.
Like a Huffy or a Schwinn or a
No. This is a real motorcycle, but it's a big bulky bastard. So again, video up. Go check it out. darknessradio.com under the news segment. There's not much more to tell you about that story, but I do have some big news, Tim.
Okay.
There's a new TV show in town, and it's on Discovery Plus. Fright Club. Investigators hoping to scare the bejesus out of each other with proof of UFOs, ghosts, and other monsters. It starts off easily enough, Tim. There's a knife-hurling poltergeist, a doppelganger-infested seminary, a fleet of mini UFO drones, and a giant kind of grody Bigfoot toenail. Yeah, you read that right. These are just a few of the bizarro video clips that Jack Osbourne and the Ghost Brothers, Dalen Spratt, Marcus Harvey, and Jawan Mass have compiled to rattle each other in the new Discovery Plus series, Fright Club. In a hair-raising yet hospitable competition, the quartet of paranormal investigators not only round up the freakiest footage and photos of the unexplainable, but they also get those who shot the oddities to share how they felt in the moment that they captured it. In the exclusive teaser that's part of this story, they show some interesting footage taken in an abandoned hospital used during World War I that clearly shows this strange light anomaly pass through the frame, breaking a chair in its path. Our mission is to freak each other out with the craziest paranormal clips out there, Osborne said. At the end, we'll vote on who brought the nightmare clip of the episode and which one is most likely to haunt your dreams. Their reactions usually range from, whoa, 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 to get out of here, to that's psychotic. Lots of fun, lots of laughter on the series. Marcus Harvey supposedly shows a Bigfoot toenail to fellow Fright Club hosts Jack Osbourne, Dalen Spratt, and Jawan Mass in one of the episodes. Spratt told The Wrap his most memorable freak-out moment came while investigating the Allen House in Monticello, Arkansas, where many claim they've seen the apparition of a young woman who killed herself after being jilted by her married lover. Me being naive, I said, if there's a ghost in here, can you sit here next to me on that couch, Spratt recounted, not knowing that this woman would actually do what he asked. She actually sat next to him, and he jumped up and ran. Now, while Mass and said the House of Wills, a former funeral home in Cleveland, is said to have a trapped dark presence inside, was his most terrifying investigation. Harvey cited that the Fitzgerald Hotel in Washington, Florida, although scared isn't exactly the word he'd used to describe the experience, where one person would call it scared, I would call it a business decision, he said in jest. But seriously, folks, Harvey was literally touched by an angel during that investigation, or at least he was touched by something he couldn't see. We were doing an investigation and Juan opened a portal that he didn't know how to close, Harvey said. Later on that night after our investigation, I'm falling asleep watching television, trying to get it out of my mind. And all of a sudden I get touched on my leg, like a caress on my leg. Sign me up, Tim. Where do I get my legs caressed by a spirit?
Right?
That was right there. It was not by an angel. Della Reese was not in my room, he said of the late star of the family drama Touched by an Angel. Dalen Spratt and Jack Osbourne debate paranormal evidence on Fright Club as well, so you can tune in to see them talk about the different pieces of evidence that they collect. And maybe I'm a little biased on this, but I appear on 3 episodes. I know for sure I'm on episode 2 and episode 3. And I would love for this clip to be mined and sent to us, Tim, because it is probably the one and only time in history you will ever hear me referred to as the Chuck Norris of the paranormal.
Really? Wait. Who said that?
I want you to watch the episode. You'll be surprised who chimes in, but it turns out I've got a fan club there between Jack Osbourne and the Ghost Brothers. They love me and refer to me as the Chuck Norris of the paranormal. So I'll take it, Tim. I am in the 2nd and 3rd episode. Episode 3, there's also a Holzer Files cameo because I discuss being knocked on my ass at the Whaley house, and they actually show the clip. And later on in the episode, Cindy Kaza is called in to, without being told where she's looking at, what she's looking at, she just gets a piece of footage. She weighs in on what she picks up there and has some frightening accuracy to something that was never told about the property that the owner kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here? He solidifies for her. And it's pretty stunning. So Cindy and I are in episode 3, plus a cameo from the entire cast. I'm on episode 2. I think I'm on at least one, maybe 2 more episodes that'll be coming out. Those get released, I think, every Tuesday, I believe, on Discovery Plus. So you'll have to go check that out for yourself. But it's a great little series. Lots of fun.
Right on.
Yeah. So now you can see me on Holzer Files. and popping in on Fright Club. And Tim, so people know this as well, they can still see you on Haunted. What the hell is the name of the series? Oh my God, my mind just went blank. I'm sorry. I went to say Haunted Hospitals because I still have that memory in mind of how amazingly accurate they portrayed you in that episode when I was telling my ghost story from the hospital. And they showed my longtime co-host and collaborator, Tim Dennis, a 6'4", well-built black man. Well, as everybody envisions you when they listen to the show, Tim.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, but you're a Haunted Night Shift, Paranormal Night Shift.
Yeah. There you got it. Paranormal Night Shift. You got it on the third try. Yes, you did.
Paranormal Night Shift. Yeah. I apologize, Tim. It's been a while since I've tooted your horn.
Yeah, well,
so I want to make sure I tooted.
I was feeling quite lonely there.
You should.
Yeah.
You should. Yeah. All right. There is kind of a creepy thing that has popped up, and this is coming to us from Sputnik News, Tim.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
While it's immediately clear what exactly is depicted, oh man, again, this is one of those that I think has been translated from Russian to English.
Right.
So some of this might sound weird. I'm going to do my best to read it. The desolate city of Pripyat in the Ukraine, which has already been featured in a number of movies and video games due to its proximity to the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, has recently attracted the attention of social media after a mysterious sighting. According to the Daily Star, the discovery in question was made by a TikTok user called @hidden.on.google.earth as they browsed Google Map images of the abandoned settlement. As they surveyed the interior of what used to be a post office before the city was evacuated in the immediate aftermath of the 1986 nuclear disaster, the camera shows what looks like an eerie figure perching on the windowsill, as the newspaper puts it. It's hard to say what the strange object is for sure, but many netizens have speculated some think it's a ghost, while others are saying, no, it must be a statue. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster struck on the 26th of April, 1986, when an explosion in the station's reactor 4 contaminated a vast territory, nearly 3,000 square miles of northern Ukraine, and parts of Belarus were depopulated as a result, with 1,000 square miles turned into an exclusion zone due to elevated levels of radiation. Now, you look at this image, Tim, this thing is the GD Grim Reaper. It's like staring at the camera, pointing at it. So here, I'm gonna share it with you. You tell me you don't see the same thing.
Okay.
Could it be a statue? Perhaps, but who the hell has a statue of the Grim Reaper pointing at the camera? Do you see it?
Are you seeing it? I have one on my front lawn, but
well, maybe they mistook Chernobyl for Tim's front yard.
They might have, yeah. Is this on the?
Fache book just sent you the news.
Right.
Story.
No. Yeah, I'm looking at the article. I see a cute little creepy figure there. Is that
yeah?
Is that the one that kind of looks like a lemur, but it's dark?
I don't see it as a lemur, unless it's like King Julian wrapped up in a burial shroud.
Well, it looks like kind of like there's a nose pointed like way up in the air.
I think that's the top of his cowl. The cloak that Death wears, and he's pointing at you, Tim. Unless you think it's a lemur pointing at you in a cloak, and that makes more sense, Tim. That says more about you than I care to realize.
Are you sure he's pointing? He's not just...
Yeah, you can't see the hand pointing at you?
He just doesn't have his head high up in the air majestically, looking up for food.
How many lemurs wear cloaks, Tim? You've been watching too many children's programs.
Who says that that's a cloak? Maybe that's just a whole lot of fur. I mean, you don't wake up every day and look at a whole lot of fur in the mirror, Dave. I'm just saying, I do. And that could be like a whole lot of fur.
Let's go. We have another audio daily double. This one by Post Malone, addressing being cursed by that haunted Dybbuk box from Zach Bagans' museum. It's been almost 3 years now, Tim, since Post Malone's experience with Ghost Adventures. Zach Bagans reportedly caused him to be what he thinks cursed by a haunted Dybbuk box. Good old Posty is finally opening up about the experience and the chain of events that led him to believe he had been cursed by the object. Now, for those of you that are unaware of the situation, just a quick recap. All the way back, Tim, in September of 2018, Ghost Adventures star Zach Bagans revealed that Post Malone's string of bad luck, a car accident, an emergency landing via plane, and a failed robbery attempt was all due to the rapper being cursed. Prior to all of this happening, Posty hung out with Zach at the Haunted Museum in Las Vegas. During his visit, Post Malone came in contact with an object known as the Dybbuk box. The object is allegedly haunted by a malicious spirit and was the inspiration for the 2012 box office failure, The Possession, Tim. I think I can call it that safely. Now, according to Zach, he touched the box and was visibly freaked out, so Post Malone put his hand on his shoulder. Although the rapper had no direct contact with the object, both Zach and Post always believed the encounter was enough to trigger Post's bad luck. So let's hear it from himself. He was recently on Late Night with Seth Meyers. The Grammy-nominated rapper opened up about the experience, and here's his story.
So, Post, I want to ask about this as well. I know that you are a believer in the supernatural. It's not that I'm not. I just have never encountered anything that has made me a skeptic. But are you someone who... I know you were on Ghost Hunters. And was that an experience that made you... is your belief in ghosts stronger after doing that?
Yeah, I think, after going on... going hunting with Zach and everything and all that stuff. And we stayed at his museum in Vegas. I love you, Zach. Text me. But
so is Zach gets a spot in the bunk room? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, Zach Bagans is definitely in here because if we need to fight off any demons or anything after the apocalypse, there's going to be a whole bunch of them running around. So, but it's weird because after we opened up this creepy Dybbuk box, I had gotten a car accident. I gotten almost had a plane wreck. My house got broken into, all that type of stuff. But it was just within a month's time. It was really, really odd stuff. But I've always had an interest in that and have had experience at my friend's house and things.
And UFOs as well. You have been lucky enough to see what you at least believe to be a UFO.
Right.
True?
Right. Yeah, hell yeah. And especially here in Utah, things are creepy if you look up into the sky. Sometimes I just go out at 4 a.m. with my night vision goggles and just look up at the sky and see if we can see anything.
So Post Malone, or Posty as the article refers to him, has had quite a bit of strange paranormal phenomena. The opening of that segment with Seth Meyers has Seth revealed to the public that Post Malone is building a protection bunker on his property, to which Post Malone seems upset that they just made public. That's when he refers to, does Zach have a space in your bunker? And he says, yes. But Seth Meyers did some remarkable research on his own, referring to Zach Bagans' hit TV series Ghost Hunters. Tim, did you pick up on that?
Yeah.
And then Post Malone was kind of triggered by that. And when he goes, when I was on, and he knew it was wrong, but now he couldn't get in his head the right name of the show, Ghost Adventures. But loves Zach, so that's kind of cool. So Post Malone has attributed his string of bad luck to that. I will tell you, in watching his interview, you see this guy all tatted up, right? Mm-hmm. And you just think, he's going to be menacing and stuff. But he's like, oh, yes, sir. Thank you, sir. He's just what a sweet, nice guy, it seems.
Yeah, anybody who's done a little bit of research on Post Malone or even has seen him in different interviews knows he's really just quite the sweetheart. He's not menacing at all. He really looks at his body as a canvas and has different tattoos on him. He even, I don't know if you watched that interview in full, you probably know about the bet he made with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, I believe it was, one night when they were out drinking.
No, I didn't watch it. I just saw that clip because it's got ghosts in it.
Well, they were out drinking one night. He made a stupid bet with the two of them, and he said there was no tete-a-tete with the bet at all. It was just he made a bet with them. He lost the bet, and if he lost the bet, he had to get a tattoo on himself with the Kansas City Chief logo and their autographs in it. And he ended up losing the bet. So not a bad way to lose a bet, to get that tattoo on you. That's one tattoo I think I would get. I don't have any tattoos, but that's one I would definitely lose a bet for and get. So,
what Tim doesn't know is that during college on a blackout night, I did get him a tramp stamp tattoo that says Dave's bitch. He'll never know it because he can't see behind himself.
I think the doctor would have told me about it last week when I went in for a shot. Yeah.
No. I pay off Tim's doctors to keep that secret safe.
Sure, yeah.
All right, let's do this, Tim. We have a new Theater of the Mind, so let's take a break. We'll come back. You sent it in. We recorded it. Theater of the Mind next, right here on Darkness Radio. We're back, hoping that you're enjoying the best in paranormal talk radio. If you're new to the program, boy, are you in for a treat. Every week, we bring you Theater of the Mind. We take a story from one of our listeners. It's been sent in to us. We will read that story in a dramatic fashion, adding sound effects, music, flash and dazzle, and present it to you. If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming Theater of the Mind, just write me your story, dave@darknessradio.com. Try to make it about 2 to 3 pages long, and make sure you paragraph, spell check, just so we're good to go, and we will read it and share it on an upcoming episode. The creepier, the weirder, the more unusual, the better. Share your stories. Email them to me at dave@darknessradio.com. Now sit back, turn down the lights, relax, and enjoy today's Theater of the Mind, The Ghosts of Windy Fields Farm by Martin Dane. Bucks County has a very rich history, starting from the early settlers through the Revolutionary War and beyond. Needless to say, there are many hauntings and haunted houses. Being born and raised there, it was not unusual to hear of the many ghost stories, and there are several published accounts. But it wasn't until I started at the county college and met some great new friends that I lived some of those stories. Here is one of mine. A guy I met in class, Sam, became a fast friend. He lived with his mother, Louise, in an apartment which was an addition to an old stone farmhouse in mid-county. They had just recently moved there along with their tabby cat, Beans. It was a small estate with some acreage and a few outbuildings, including an old carriage house and barn. The owner of the property, Esther, lived in the main house. She was an older, unmarried woman. Upon her retirement from teaching, she chose to do some traveling. She was seldom ever there, and Sam and his mom were in charge of the property when she was gone. The place had all the colonial charm of many old estates in Bucks County. The towering oak trees, the long gravel drive, and an old root cellar that flanked the edge of the yard. The house was built in the 1700s. Sam's mom, Louise, was really cool, a hippie of sorts, and she let us have the run of the place most weekends while she was out with her friends. It was really great to be invited there. When Sam started telling me about strange happenings in the house, it was always in stride, jokingly even, but eventually the events became more frequent and so much more frightening. The first was in late summer. I was on my way over to see him just as this was occurring. He had closed the back door of the kitchen and went upstairs for something. When he came back down, the door was wide open, and he saw a young girl standing just inside the doorway. He froze, and the girl vanished as quickly as she had appeared. When I arrived, he was very flustered. He told me about the girl and kept repeating he could see the screen door right through her. When I pressed, he described her as being approximately 7 or 8 years old, wearing a short petticoat and an apron, and she was holding something, perhaps a doll? At the time, I wasn't sure whether or not to take him seriously, as he tended to laugh nervously as he told me about it, and I really didn't know him well enough at the time to know how truthful he was being. Sam seemed a rather mischievous fellow, and I thought maybe he was just trying to entertain me with the thought that he and his mother had moved into a haunted house. But then, weren't all of Bucks County's old houses haunted? We laughed it off. To be on the safe side, however, we searched the house and grounds, and no one was there. When we told Louise later, she said it must have just been our imaginations. Well, soon, little anomalies began happening. Sam had bought a brand new pair of designer jeans at Macy's that he couldn't find. For weeks, he searched for those jeans, positive that he hadn't left them at the store or in the car or anywhere. But he had brought them into his room. He was sore because they were very expensive jeans. Also, there was an old dresser in Sam's room from where atop it occasionally odds and ends would go missing, including small amounts of money. Some of the things, like buttons, receipts, a comb, a wristwatch, they would be found in other parts of the apartment, but not all of them showed up, and never the money. When Louise was doing work in the yard or the barn, she would always wear an old field coat, which hung on a hook in the old carriage house. Often, she would inadvertently wear it back to the apartment, but the field coat would always be found back on the same hook at the carriage house. Louise would say, "Oh, darn, I forgot the coat in the carriage house again." It wasn't until later when she confessed her own experiences that we realized the coat moved on its own. The other constant oddity was it was impossible to keep paintings hanging straight on the walls. They would always end up crooked again after being rewrited over and over. Finally, they just gave up on it. Many of these incidents were just silly and seemed to need more proof before being called an actual haunting. Well, both Sam and his mother seldom watched TV, but they had an old, small black and white set that they would often trade off, bringing it downstairs or taking it to their respective bedrooms to watch. It usually sat unplugged in a corner of the kitchen on a small table. One night in early September, when Sam came home after dark, he saw that his mother had the TV on because he could see the blue light emanating from her upstairs bedroom window. When he pulled into the drive, he saw her standing at the window that night and waved up to her. When he entered the apartment, the house was dark. The TV was in its usual place, unplugged, in the kitchen. And Louise, you guessed it, she wasn't home. That night, my phone began ringing off the hook. He called me in terror and begged me to come over. I couldn't. I had no car and hadn't any gas to get there if I did have a car, and it was a good 20-mile hike from where I lived in Lower County. He called me again near 1 o'clock in the morning, this time in tears and pleading. I told him I would stay on the phone with him until dawn. Through that fall, I began spending more weekends with him at the farm. Louise was working on restoring an old lake cabin in North Jersey, and she had inherited that from her mother. So she was away a lot on weekends, and sometimes she would stay away the entire week and commute from there to her regular job as a teacher. So we were there alone most of the time. Now, autumn is a wonderful time in any part of New England. The days were warm, but the nights would get cool. And one night, after I helped Sam do some work in the barn, we lit a fire in the fireplace in his bedroom. The crackles and pops of the fire were reassuring as we settled in. We shared some wine, and then we shared the stories. It was an Indian summer, and the cat's night began when Beans was feeling frisky and restless, often sneaking through the warped door of Sam's bedroom. We would often find him in the middle of the night meowing from behind the door, and we would have to retrieve him from the creepy hallway or the tilted bedroom down the hall. Well, that very night, to prevent Beans from escaping the apartment, we moved the old dresser against the warped door. Sam slept in his bed, and I took to the floor near the fireplace with a sleeping bag and an extra set of sheets and blankets. Back then, I used to wear a silver chain with a medallion of the Virgin Mary that was given to me by my aunt. Now, in the middle of the night, it was yanked from my neck. In my grogginess, I recalled feeling the tug, but disregarded it and went back to sleep. In the morning, the chain and pendant were in pieces. They were mingled throughout the bedclothes. I guess I could have tangled it in the bed covers myself. What was a surprise in the morning was that the doorknob of the old warped door had been completely dismantled and was now sitting on top of the dresser. We had several parties at the house, having met new friends at school. Louise didn't care. We all just hung out in the kitchen listening to music and having some beers and laughs. Well, one party night, a few of the gang, including some girls, stayed over. we all scrambled for bunking space somewhere. No one knew where anyone ended up until morning, when we all moseyed back to the kitchen to fry up some breakfast. Ah, college life. You remember. But that night, there were screams from Louise's bedroom. One of the girls woke to see a child, a girl, weeping in a chair. She also saw the face of an older woman floating over the bed. After this event was when we confronted Esther, the owner, who confided that yes, the house had special friends. As a matter of fact, Esther nonchalantly explained that the farm was completely haunted by two ghosts in particular, a young girl and an older woman who seemed to be her guardian. Louise, who had hidden her own experiences, she thought she was losing her mind over the field coat, finally came forward and was astounded by the stories as well. Esther told us that one of the previous owners, a very wealthy family who had owned a prime car dealership in the county, bought the estate, but they sold it very quickly. They entered the house to find all their belongings flying around the room in a seemingly indoor tornado, with items clinking and clanking as they flew through the air. It scared them so badly, they immediately sold the house at a loss. She told us that a popular ghost hunter who wrote a series of books about Bucks County hauntings offered her a large amount of money to investigate and include it in her books. Esther declined the offer. Esther also disclosed to us that she was battling terminal cancer and would soon have to sell the property. Her trips to Europe were for seeing doctors. Soon, we all agreed to have a medium come in and assess the hauntings. During the seance, candles flickered, and the kitchen would go cold, where we could actually see our breaths. As he channeled the spirits, I recorded the findings. The medium said that the little girl was afraid of boys and would only appear to the women or female guests of the house. Now, this explained why the girls we invited saw the little girl. Louise then confessed she was seeing the little girl and the woman a lot, and was why she spent most of her time up at the cabin or off with her friends. I was so intrigued with what we had learned that I started doing some of my own investigations. I had gone to the county courthouse looking for deeds of previous families who lived there when the house was first built in the early century. I deciphered zoning maps and also found birth and death records, one of a little girl named Alice, who died of influenza at the age of 9. Her maternal grandmother, Elizabeth, was also listed as dying around the same time from the same virus. Much of the hauntings actually made sense then, and it was a wonderful ghost experience overall. When Esther, now quite ill, and her sisters started the process of selling the house, they had a huge yard sale of antiques and artwork. One painting dug out of the attic of the main house was a portrait of a stout, matronly woman. Esther said it was there when she bought the place. The painting had been damaged, and apparently an artist friend of Esther's attempted to restore it, but it had failed. There was a large streak through the face of the woman portrayed. She gave the painting to Sam. He took it to another restorer. And as soon as that painting of Elizabeth was removed from the house, all the other pictures on the walls stayed straight when they were righted. And on the final day, when Louise and Sam left the farm, Sam found a pile of loose dollars and change shoved in the back corner of his closet. All of the money that had gone missing through the year. However, the blue jeans, well, those were never found. Another excellent story. Thank you so much for sharing with us. All right, back to the news, Tim. A ghost is lurking over a grave, and bone-chilling images from the most haunted cemetery. That's right, bone-chilling images taken by a fearless visitor at what is considered the most haunted cemetery shows what appears to be a ghostly figure standing over a grave. Tyler Karanasoas.
Really?
Yeah. Captured the haunting photo at the Pine Hill Cemeteries in Hollis in the U.S. state of New Hampshire, Tim. The curious 26-year-old decided to visit the site, which is known as Blood Cemetery, after Abel Blood, who is rumored to have been a murderer with occult connections. His ghost is said to haunt his final resting place, and Tyler now fears he may have disturbed the spirit. Looking for something spooky, Tyler decided to visit the cemetery, and he heard the reason for the site's haunted reputation. He said, "My friend and I wanted to find somewhere haunted to possibly visit. When we arrived, it was probably close to midnight. Some spots were cold and some were warm. It was strange. I believe a lot of it was adrenaline, but it is possible I was feeling the presence of a spirit." He continued, "I noticed the figure at one point when I turned around. It moved quickly and scared the hell out of me. I then told my friend we should take flash photos before we leave. When we got home, we realized what we had captured after going through our photos. This ephemeral mist is visible between two rows of headstones in one of the images, but when the image is brightened, the mist forms the shape of a person wearing a long cloak or shroud, or as Tim would see, a giant lemur dressed in a cloak or very furry."
I'm just saying it was a horseshit photo.
That's the other story we were talking about. Both of these stories will be up for you to review.
Right.
Mr. Anonymous,
sure,
a healthcare worker, believes it may be the ghost of one of Abel Blood's family. He said Abel Blood's headstone happens to also be in the photo. It's the smaller broken one in the shape of a triangle in the photo. The rest of the Blood family is buried there, including a young child. I believe the ghost might be Elizabeth Blood. I think that because the spirit in the picture looks like a woman and happens to be standing behind her gravestone. I don't see how it looks like a woman. It looks like the Grim Reaper. It looks like somebody in a cloak or a giant lemur, all puffy. When Tyler shared the photos online, viewers suggested perhaps it was just simply the outline of another headstone, but another photo taken in the daytime during a previous visit shows no other headstone is there. So when Mr. Karananasis said he understood the skepticism, but that he himself is totally convinced. A lot of people believe it's a spirit, he said. Many others believe it's a reflection or some sort of illusion. I believe there's definitely the spirit of someone or something. It takes a clear shape of a person wearing some sort of cloak or dress. He added, "I truly cannot explain this photo naturally. The area in which the figure is shown is not visible any other time. It most certainly is only in this picture. Otherwise, it is just another space of grass." To those who believe it's fake, I understand. The internet is full of fake things. Myself and my friend are truly the only ones who know what happened that night, and I am only trying my best to show that experience, and that picture is 100% real. A website dedicated to the cemetery describes it as the most haunted in New England. Despite his reputation, evidence has not been found to substantiate the rumors that Abel Blood was a murderer or had any connection to the occult. But one paranormal investigator writes, his genealogy and the town's history suggests that he was a very Christian man and lived a good, law-abiding life. If there is a ghostly presence inside the cemetery, whoever it might be, Mr. Karananamanamanamalapalapala says he hopes he hasn't disturbed it. He said, "I'd like to tell people to not disturb this area. My only regret is that I may have disturbed a spirit that is at peace in that cemetery. I'm still glad I experienced this, but that is my one regret on visiting the haunted cemetery." Hey, if the spirit didn't want to be photographed, it wouldn't show up, Tim.
Yeah, exactly. It would ghost everybody.
So stop worrying, Mr. Kamanapatalabalabas.
Yeah, onomatopoeia.
Yeah, hippopotamus. Okay, it's a big name. Lots of story to it. All right, Tim. This story I know is going to hit close to home for you. Naven Wakwar shares the most haunted experience of her life, Tim. Almost everyone has listened to ghost stories in childhood, but there are a few who've actually had the chance to experience it. Thinking an encounter with the supernatural gives everyone the chills. Who would like to have such an experience? Nobody. However, Pakistani actress Naveen Wakwar once had experienced something paranormal. Naveen Wakwar, one of the stylish and talented actresses of Pakistani show business, has made her name prominent within a short span of time. She rose to fame in one of Tim's favorite TV shows in her role as Sarah in the blockbuster drama serial Humsafar, along with Fawad Khan and Maharia Khan. Her famous dramas include Humsafar, Bawafa, Saya-e-Dewar Bi Nahi, and Chalawala. Ding dong. You loved all of those, Tim, if I remember correctly.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Recently in an interview, Naveen said she had an experience of the most spooky kind during her childhood. When I was little, at my nanny's house was a haunting because she had a mango tree in her house. And in that house, someone constantly used to call by name. But when we would go into that room, no one used to be there. And I would hear my mother calling me. And when I used to ask her, Ami, are you calling me? She would deny. And many such things used to happen like that, and a door slamming. Loose translations, basically, Tim.
Oh.
She continued in saying, you can feel certain things because every house has its own aura. You walk into a place and you can feel negativity or positivity. At least I believe in these things. You start feeling heavy. You feel like something is not right, and that house had many such things. But else than that, I encountered many such strange things. Actress Naveen Wakwar shared fitness tips with her fans and tells how she stayed fit. Thanked them for cheering her on. Pretty interesting stuff, huh?
What are the fitness tips?
We're a paranormal show.
Dude.
Don't eat.
How do you bring me to the edge, but don't push me over?
You should be used to that by now, Tim. I'm a bit of a tease when it comes to that. We've got another audio daily double. Ghosts make it stop. A woman terrifies Holly and Phil as she tells of poltergeist torment. Here's her story in her own echoey, crappy, Skypey words, Tim.
Well, Donald is the name that was given to the poltergeist. And just explain what life was like with the family. What did Donald actually do to you all?
Oh, it was horrendous. As you said, it started with a key. And that night, the noises began. And it seemed to come from the walls and the ceiling, the floors. And both neighbours either side, because we're a terraced house, heard it. And the police were called at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they heard it out in the street. And it went on till, I think, daylight, and we were all traumatised. And I just, because I was a little girl, I clung on to my dad and said, please make it stop. And it didn't. There was, daylight came, and we were very, very traumatised. And it went on for there, and it lasted for weeks, every night, pound, the noises. And then things started to, pots and pans would be thrown, and we had to dodge them, in case they hit you. And at one time, the clock came off the mantelpiece and floated across the room and landed on the dining room table. And we just, at night, when all this was going on, just sat in the kitchen and to ride it out and let it all happen.
Dave, when you're properly British, nothing is very scary.
Except for that audio quality.
Well, yeah.
She talking through a tin can and a string to these people? What the hell? Don't worry, faithful listeners. We've got that actual video up in our news story, so you can go listen to the crappy audio quality for yourself all over again.
Yeah.
All of the news stories with video, audio, and photographs will be posted there. So go to darknessradio.com, click on the news tab. While you're at the website, make sure to click on the shop. If you scroll down, you'll see a link to our Amazon shop. Scroll down a little bit further on that page. You can actually find copies of my book, The Other Side. You can order those books autographed. I will ship them out to you. So that is there and readily available for you. All right, Tim. Dan Aykroyd is in the headlines of our next story.
Uh-oh, what did he do?
Dan Aykroyd's belief in the paranormal began with his mystic relative. He claims there's vivid evidence. When it comes to chasing ghosts, actor and comedian Dan Aykroyd is the man for the job. His iconic role as Ray Stantz in the 1984 classic film Ghostbusters came about from his fascination with the paranormal. The critically acclaimed actor has been a believer in the metaphysical world since a very young age. He credits a mystic relative for getting him interested in ghosts, which he claims are very, very real. Born in 1952, the 68-year-old actor got his start as part of the original ensemble on NBC's Saturday Night Live. According to Rotten Tomatoes, his comedic genius blended perfectly with the likes of Gilda Radner, Chevy Chase, and of course John Belushi. Aykroyd immortalized Elwood in the Blues Brothers, co-starring with his best friend John Belushi. He went on to star in countless movies such as Trading Places with Eddie Murphy, Grosse Point Blank, and Driving Miss Daisy, for which he received Academy Award nominations. As if that was not impressive enough, he went on to appear in not one, but 2 episodes of the critically acclaimed and popular paranormal podcast Darkness Radio, hosted by Dave, the Chuck Norris of the Paranormal Schrader, and Tim Dennis from Paranormal Night Shift on Discovery Plus. He leaned on his paranormal fascination to write the movie Ghostbusters, a motion picture about 3 scientists who join forces to study the occult. They use an old New York City firehouse, Tim. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this little film, art house film that was created.
No, never
they
seen
use
it.
a firehouse as the base to trap ghosts, spirits, and pesky poltergeists. His co-stars included Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, and Ernie Hudson. A Canadian native, Aykroyd spent most of his childhood learning about parapsychology. He explained to Yahoo! His great-grandfather was a mystic who documented the work of several mediums from New York. A full accounting of what he witnessed was written in a collection of journals that were passed on to Aykroyd's grandfather. When his father, Peter, was given the journals, he published a book, A History of Ghosts, telling the detailed stories of previous generations. We had Peter and Dan Aykroyd on our program discussing that book, as a matter of fact, and it's part of our Darchives. So if you go back, you can scroll through and get a chance to hear that episode. Dan Aykroyd, in our first season of Darkness Radio, then came back to join us, about 8 years later with his father and talking about that book. The accomplished actor explained that as a child, his house was filled with paranormal magazines, such as the British Society for Psychical Research and American Society for Psychical Research. Aykroyd said, I just grew up with it. There was no way out of it. Aykroyd is excited to be working as a narrator on the Travel Channel's Hotel Paranormal, where he has the chance to continue expressing his fascination with the afterlife. The ghost-focused series details the true stories of paranormal encounters that have taken place in a real hotel and motel rooms. Interviews, reenactments, and actual footage depict spine-chilling encounters and unworldly experiences. The Blues Brother actor wants to help convince skeptics that there's vivid evidence of the fact that there is survival of life and consciousness after death. He's adamant about others realizing this stuff is real. Aykroyd has had several experiences of his own, telling Yahoo! My wife and I were in bed, and her jewelry did a little dance next to our bed. She saw it too. She had bracelets there, and all of a sudden it was like they were doing a little mini cyclone. He also claims that his Hollywood Hills home, which was previously owned by the Mamas and Papas, Cass Elliot, had some things going on there as well. Aykroyd vividly explains an eerie encounter, saying, something got into bed with me one night. I believe when I was there alone. The door was closed but not locked, and it opened. And I felt a chill, and then I felt something compress next to me on the mattress. The Crystal Vodka owner said that his daughter saw a red-haired man and a girl at the end of the hallway. A friend claims to have seen a large black mass in the house's stairway, and others have said that there are always strange things going on. Aykroyd hopes to bring his experience with the occult to the new television series. Speaking to the Travel Channel, Aykroyd said, I think the incredible encounters we're highlighting on Hotel Paranormal will open up a lot of minds and hopefully break through some of the skepticism people carry about the paranormal. How about that?
Yeah.
Huh? Huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. So we've had him on the show. I don't know if I've told you that, Tim, but twice, not once, but twice.
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd has graced the haunted halls of Darkness Radio.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, what do you tell your kids if they think they're seeing ghosts? Well,
How about,
Ashley, we're really...
Oh, I was going to say, I have a solution, but then you can present the story. My solution is, here's $100 in a candy bar. Close your eyes, eat the candy bar, go to sleep. But you go ahead with what the story says.
All right. Well, here's a tale as old as time, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
This is an article from moms.com. What to do if a child sees ghosts. And Ashley Worley is the author of this article. Sometimes even the bravest of parents can get caught up in scary stories and ideals such as ghosts and monsters. The horror movie business is always booming because people love to be scared and feel the rush of adrenaline that it gives you. However, watching it in a movie and having an experience you cannot explain are two completely different things. Children have very vivid and active imaginations, and there have always been the tales of the imaginary friends and creative fantasy play. But some children go as far as to say they're seeing ghosts, which can have mom and dad just, a little worried. If mom and dad are skeptics, they may brush it off as just another episode of their child's imagination running away with them. If mom and dad are believers, then they may start to get scared and wonder if they need to call in a paranormal investigator, maybe a priest, or start blessing their home to cleanse it. However, if there were more to children seeing ghosts than there are actually being ghosts in the home, is what this article says. Oh, I'm sorry. However, is there more to children seeing ghosts than actually being ghosts in their home? The truth may be debatable, but all we can do is look at what experts and mothers have to say about the whole thing. Here's an example. It is always best to have an example to base our research off, and there are no shortages of experiences that are shared by moms. According to The Every Mom, one mom shared her experience of her child experiencing the paranormal. One mother explained how she went to look at a new home with her 3-year-old child. They went and saw the home they wanted to purchase and later talked about it as a family. When she asked her young daughter what she thought of the home, she said that she liked it. She said she also liked the little boy that lives there. He was very nice. Da-da-da-da-da. When mom asked her daughter what she was talking about, as no little boy lived there, her daughter went on to explain that she saw a little boy in the dining room who was standing in his pajamas. Phantoms in Pajamas, Tim.
It's a great album.
After that day, she said her daughter never mentioned the boy again, and she would not relay the story to her father. So what does the psychologist say? It's always good to get an expert's point of view on what may be going on physiologically when we think our children are seeing ghosts. The internet is riddled with tales of children seeing the paranormal and having these experiences. And the theory has always been that since they are young and innocent, they are more prone to having ghosts appear to them. According to the Washington Post, Jacqueline D. Woolley is a psychology professor at the University of Texas, and she has spent hours researching children and understanding of real life versus fantasy. Jacqueline says it can all come down to how the brain works. She said that minds will naturally make connections between events, even when they're not connected. This says more about how a parent interprets what their child is saying. If their child comes to them and says they saw a ghost, our brain may interpret what they said and fit it in to what we want to believe. An event that could have been a dream or have other natural explanations for could be interpreted as a parent as them saying they saw a ghost. If mom tries to understand and asks her child if it was a ghost, her child may go along because that just sounds a lot more exciting. This sounds so dismissive. So what should a mom do or a dad do if you're working in the capacity of a mom, or mom and dad do if they're working together? It can be alarming if a child comes to you and tells you that they're seeing ghosts. It can be alarming, but there are some things you can do according to Medium. The first thing you want to do is remain calm. It could be your first instinct to get a little freaked out, and even if you do or don't believe, this can make your child afraid. And it could cause some issues in regards to them sleeping at night or going into the space they say they saw something. Ask some descriptive questions. Try and find out what your child saw, and this may help you determine what may be bothering your child. If this is caused by something that is upsetting to them, perhaps the ghost they're seeing is a dream, and a description may point you to a certain person or event that is bothering them. They also have a general rule of thumb, piece of advice to parents, and that is to treat the ghost how you would treat an imaginary friend. When children say they're seeing ghosts, they really believe it. even if you do not, it would be hurtful to tell them they're imagining it or to tell them it doesn't exist. When moms make these types of blanket statements, the only thing it may cause in their child will be less reluctant to tell them about future experiences. So this psychologist is kind of all over the place. I'm not sure that I got any good advice out of that. So forget everything I just read, folks. In 3, 2, 1. Hey, Tim, I've got another story to share with you.
Sure, Dave.
Let's go over to Liverpool.
All right, then.
That's right. We got a story to share from Liverpool, Tim. I feel like that. That's my faux McCartney, if you will.
That's a good faux McCartney.
A ghost hunting team say they encountered ghostly voices, cold chills, and unexplained smells while exploring a historic city center pub. Civil servant Chris Cummings and teacher Adam Belling made up YouTube paranormal investigators Haunted Scouse and used their channel to explore the history of pubs, cemeteries, and other parts of Merseyside. Chris and Adam headed to the Lion Tavern pub in Liverpool city centre at the beginning of December after being invited by the landlord, Dave Hardman. That was my porn name back in the day, Tim.
I kind of figured.
Yeah. Was just before I switched over to the name you might recognize me more as Goliath Woodview.
Ah, right, yeah. That sounds like a street in a subdivision somewhere.
Actually, that I got that porn name from one of those how to find your porn name.
Yeah.
It says take the name of your first pet and the street you grew up on. Now tell me that's not awesome. Goliath is my first pet, and then Woodview Drive. Come on, Goliath Woodview. That is the quintessential porn name if ever I've heard one, Tim.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It does sound a little subdivision-y, but yeah.
But it's better than Tiny Idlewild. Right? You don't want that to be your porn name. Tiny. I like Goliath.
Unless you're in the circus. Then
I guess.
Then Tiny Idlewild is kind of a good one. I'm not going to lie.
Well, Dave Hardman called them in, and in the hour-long episode, Chris and Adam used a device called an S-Box, which Chris says measures radio frequencies and pauses if there are any signals. Chris said, when we go to the location, we like to do our research. What history has happened there, what people think has happened there. We had messaged a lot of the historic pubs to see if we could come down. When there is like 200 years of history there, that's a lot of footfall. Describing one of the spookier moments on the visit, Chris says Adam was sat in the snug near the toilets at the back of the pub. He said, I saw Adam rubbing his arms and I knew he could feel a bit of a chill. I then started smelling the faint smell of tobacco. And, you know, pubs haven't allowed smoking for a very long time. In the same area as the smell, I got an icy cold chill. It felt like when you go to put the bins out in the middle of winter. Whenever I smelled the tobacco, I started coughing, and I kept getting this cough. COVID. Elsewhere in the trip, Chris says the S-Box device appeared to pick up a woman's voice. Cover your mouth, love. The Lion has been open for around 180 years and is known for its spectacular stained glass skylight. Anyone wishing to subscribe to Chris and Adam's YouTube channel with music from Stephen Johnston can do so and look them up online. I'm not going to give you a link. Work for it, lazy bastards. All right, Tim, we have a pesky poltergeist tale to tell now. Are you ready for that? Sure. As long as we're on that side of the pond?
Well, yeah, let's do it.
The Blacksmith's Arms in Stranton, Hartpool is brimming with haunted history. A traditional pub that attracts plenty of regulars from the area. It sports a good selection of beers, lagers, wines, and an unusual spirit, too, Tim. The resident poltergeist, christened George, is said to be an elderly gentleman dressed in an old-fashioned clothing who enjoys opening and closing doors, moving glasses, and smashing bottles. He's reported to hang around the antiquated building, which was built as two adjoining cottages and a blacksmith's in the 1760s before being transformed into a public house in 1821. An underground passageway once connected to the pub with Stanton Church across the way, and throughout both world wars is alleged that dead bodies were laid along that pass. Although it's boarded up now, the eerie gravestones of Stanton Churchyard seen from the pub's window act as a reminder of the fallen. Could George be one of those dead? Dave Mountney, the current landlord, has lived in the pub with his wife and elderly mother since 2012 and claims that it's the oldest drinking establishment in Hartlepool. The 65-year-old, originally from the Midlands, said of George, "We don't know a lot about him. I haven't personally seen him, but a fair few people claim they have. We've had a couple of visits from paranormal groups who reckon they found readings that indicate there are spirits around. And I don't mean gin and whiskey." He's clever. The most recent spooky occurrence happened when David was in the pub with just one other customer a couple of years ago. The customer was convinced that someone had walked past him in the corridor, but upon checking the pub, it was only the two of them on the premises. Further back in time, some brave punters, I said punters, Tim, put themselves forward to sleep in the cellar overnight, but none persevered for longer than an hour. They were tough characters, but they sensed something down there that made them feel very uneasy, David said. "Sometimes I do hear a bang in the night, but I'd like to think it's just the weather. If he is there, he seems to be quite friendly to us," he added. However, George isn't the only curiosity at the blacksmiths, according to David. We've got an excellent picture up in the bar of a woman named Navy Nan. She was famed for dropping shillings into men's tankards in the Blacksmith Arms back in the 1800s. She'd go around press-ganging random young men in the Navy, and they'd be dragged off onto a ship. It's another thing that adds to the pub's heritage. The drinking house has been closed since November, since coronavirus, and David said he is unsure when they will ever be able to reopen, but he expects it won't be before Easter. So for now on, he and George have plenty of time to get to know one another. So there's that.
Spooky.
You know what we need, Tim? I need a good ghost story. If only. Hey, I got one, Tim.
Do you?
Maybe you've heard of a certain singer by the name of Rascal Flatts.
Well, I've heard of a band named Rascal Flatts, yeah.
Oh, that's not his name? That would be a much cooler story if the guy's name was Rascal Flatts.
No, it's
like Earl Scruggs and Rascal Flatts.
Yeah, it's a band.
A band, you say?
Yeah.
Rascal, is that a location? Rascal Flats? That sounds like, what you're going to do is if you want to see Jim Joe Billy Bob and pick up that there pickup truck that he's got for sale, you got to go down the road a piece, take a left by the old Biffy left out, and then you're going to take a right on the corner by Mabel's Diner, then go down about 2 or 3 blocks,
right.
Twixt two twisted trees, and that's Rascal Flats. Right over there.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. All right, Tim. This story also going to be up on the news site at darknessradio.com under news.
Okay.
Tab.
Sure.
Right up there, Tim, under the news tab.
News.
Because
tab.
Rascal himself puts up a video of his experience.
I hear Flats is just a woman with poor self-esteem.
Could be. Yeah. Bugs are often cited as the cause when mysterious blurs and spots appear on security footage, but a Tennessee-based musician says his motion sensors picked up something not so easily explained. Jim Riley, the drummer for country trio Rascal Flatts, shared the Ring.com footage Thursday on Facebook and quickly ignited talk of paranormal activity and ghostly orbs. Now, when I read that, I was like, I'm not even going to go any further, but I'm like, I'm going to watch this. And I watched the video, and it's not just your typical orb. It's a 12-minute video that shows an elliptical white spot bouncing erratically around a room in his Nashville home.
Oh, boy.
Riley wrote he had hours and hours of footage showing the orb. This is freaky, Riley posted. My Ring motion camera has been going off all night, even before dark. What the heck is this? When I turn on that there light, there's nothing in there. Riley, who is also an adjunct professor at Belmont University, has nearly 16,000 followers on Facebook, and many have weighed in since Thursday. Some offered jokes, Tinkerbell, while others tried to find a sensible explanation. A moth, a spiderweb, someone shining a light into the house. It looks like none of those. None of those. It's 100% not a bug, Riley posted. Trust me. I have a video of my wife walking in the room and it just disappears. Not a bug. It happened at dusk and all night. Riley said he also got up to investigate, switching on the lights in the process, and I ain't found no sign of no bug, no moth or spider web. He said his plans was to see if the orb reappeared Friday night, and then I would investigate further. Some commenters suggested the object was spiritual in nature, including a man who said he experienced something similar in his own home. It's been happening a lot more lately. It's like a spirit or something, most likely, he wrote. Last time I done seen something like that was on that Ghostly Adventures show with that Zach Baganatzers.
Who?
It's technically called an orb, according to those people that believes in them, another said. The website Ghosts and Graves said orbs are probably the most photographed type of anomaly. It's also believed that orbs are the soul of a human or even an animal that has died and is traveling around from one place to another. The circular shape is the first state they appear in before they become full-bodied apparitions. If you're lucky enough to capture an orb on video, you'll be amazed at how fast they fly by, like a bug or dust moving through the room, Tim.
That could be, yeah. I hear they're about the same speed.
But I will tell you, I watched this video, and it's interesting. I do not see that normal bug look to it.
Okay.
I don't see the round thing. But I will tell you what I do see, Tim.
What do you see?
It, to me, looks like an old flip phone you'd pop open.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how the screen lights up, and then the what you call them, their numbers on the bottom have a low glow to them.
Okay.
It's like somebody's holding their flip phone up, and as a matter of fact, I thought at first he was videotaping this through a plated glass so that he was getting the reflection of his phone. But it's not that. But I think if you see it, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's weird footage. As a matter of fact, Tim, I'm going to put you on the spot because the spot is where you look good, especially in this low lighting.
Look at you getting all country romantic.
Woo! Let's kick off our boots and tip back our hats, son. I can't quit you. So take a look at that footage, Tim. Tell me if you see what I'm seeing, what I think I'm seeing.
Every article you send me asks me to accept cookies. I keep thinking it's coming from a Russian website.
Me love cookies.
Let's see. Okay, it's this old Jim Riley Facebook watch deal. Oh, look at that. It's flying around. Oh, yeah, that does look like lens glare, doesn't it?
It looks like, and it's in the shape of like a cell phone.
A cell phone or a flip phone.
Like a flip phone, yeah.
That is.
So he's haunted by his old flip phone.
It is. It looks like, it looks like it's like somebody, it's like a bounce off of a big sheet of plexiglass or glass.
Right. It's weird. I mean, I don't know why Mr. Riley would fake something like that. But I can't figure out what it is. But that's what it appears to be. Dave, damn it. Why do you read a story with visual representation? How can we see that on the radio? Well, you can't. Simmer the down, people. That's why I tell you to go to darknessradio.com and click on the news tab where the lovely Darkness Winnie, my wife, takes these links, posts them there for you to go find. So you can click on them and watch them their stories. All for your own self. Yoo-hoo!
She sits there with a laptop in the back of a Cracker Barrel. Just sits there and eats a...
She in the back of her what?
In the back of a Cracker Barrel, Dave. Oh. She sits there with a bowl of grits and a cup of coffee, and she just sits there real nice like, and she tips real well at the end of her meal because that's how we do it. We're real neighborly, real friendly.
So that's it, Tim. Poltergeists, ghostly dogs, spirits of children, former cell phones haunting us. So that's a lot of ghost stories this week.
Yeah, it is.
And now for something completely different. I have 3 final stories to ride us out on today's program.
All right.
First story comes to us from a young feller capturing the attention of the wrestling world. I think this kid's gonna make it, Tim. His name is Chris Jericho.
That Jericho fella?
Yeah, Chris Jericho is a man of many talents and interests. His work beyond the ropes includes a lavish lifestyle and podcasts, not to mention his band Fozzy, which has risen in fame over the last few years. And just when you think you've got Y2J figured out, he comes up with another surprise that leaves you baffled. Believe it or not, but Jericho is an avid follower of things that go bump in the night and openly admits to this obsession. I wish he'd talk to us about it, Tim. It's a shame he's never had us on his show repeatedly. To talk about the paranormal.
Yeah.
Who's writing this article that they didn't know this 10 years ago? In a recent interview on Hollywood Raw, Y2J, he's not even going by that anymore.
No, he's not. Don't call him Y2J.
But I'm just telling you, I'm reading it as the article's written.
Okay.
Y2J explained why he likes such creatures so much and the root of his side hobby. He says, I've just always been interested in the paranormal and cryptozoology since I was a kid, revealed Jericho. I was really obsessed with lake monsters because my grandparents lived in the banks of Okanagan, Lake Okanagan, which is the home of Ogopogo, which is kind of Canada's Loch Ness Monster light, Tim. So I always just really researched it and looked that sort of stuff up and kind of continued to this day, said Jericho. A lot of my podcast guests are part of the paranormal conspiracy. Ghosts, UFOs, cryptozoology, and that sort of thing has always interested me, and why I'm such a huge fan of the paranormal podcast Darkness Radio, starring Dave Schrader and his friend Tim, somebody or other. I'm just reading it as it's written, Tim. I told you, reading it as it's written. Chris Jericho already has an interesting podcast, but imagine a master hunting series involving him. That surely would be a spectacle for anybody to watch. Well, in fact, he did have his stint with Travel Channel called The Legend of with Chris Jericho. The show involved him traveling across America to explore the truth behind lore and unexplained legends. However, only one episode has been released so far featuring him exploring the story behind Butch Cassidy's hidden treasure, or as they wrote here, Booth Cassidy, Tim.
Oh, Booth? That was his long-lost brother and his twin brother. I don't know if you've ever met him before.
My Butch took my treasure and hid it again. Shut up, Booth.
Yeah, he wasn't very, he was pretty inept. But he was a good kid. He's nice, and that was his problem. He always let Butch grab his stuff and hide it.
Pardon me?
Yeah.
Y2J answered some interesting rapid-fire questions in the same interview. He named The Rock as the best performer on the mic, Kane as the smelliest wrestler, and Dean Malenko as the funniest. Wow. However, he reserved a special place for The Undertaker, for the wrestler who could hold the most amount of alcohol. Well, Undertaker back in the days is right up there, so I'll go with him, answered Y2J. We sure would love the hear the story. That's how it's written. We sure would love to hear the story behind the choice sometime in the future. After all, the dead man does come under the paranormal category, doesn't he? Clever. Chris Jericho. He reached out to me. He's like, dude, your episode, When Monsters Attack. You want to come on and tell me about how you were attacked by monsters? And I'm like, I was just reading news stories, Chris. And he's like, all right, take care. But I will be part of the Jericho Whammy Slammy 3. What's the full title of it, Tim?
Wow, you don't even know the title of it?
I can't, because it's been canceled and reset like 4 times. I kind of lost track. But this October, his third rock and wrestling cruise is going to be taken off, and I get to be a part of that, and I might be bringing along a special guest. You'll have to keep tuned.
They call it the triple whammy, Dave.
The triple whammy, Dave.
Your name is not in it. It's
triple whammy, Dave.
No, your name's not in it, Dave.
But I'm on. This is my third cruise with him, so it only makes sense. The Chris Jericho triple whammy, Dave cruise.
Dave, damn it! It's
just
the triple whammy. It's just the triple whammy.
Oh, because I'm on it.
No, your name's not in it, Dave. It
is. I've seen the poster.
No,
Darkness Radio, Dave Schrader.
No. It's just triple whammy.
Oh.
It's the Chris Jericho Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea triple whammy.
With Dave.
No.
A local priest explains the truth about exorcisms, Tim. This comes to us by way of the SS Times and Rick Hinton. Thus comes the opening music, the haunting piano from Michael Oldfield's Tubular Bells, a thick curtain of fog, and a darkly silhouetted priest next to a streetlight. Also a sense of urgency. Modern-day exorcists, a present-day occurrence, or a legend seeped in folklore. How does this translate into paranormal investigations? Is it something to be laughed away, or is there credence that demonic activity holds court in the present? I believe that it does. That evil has the capacity to be the greater imitator of what we feel is good, and sometimes steers us down a path we don't want to walk down. Exorcism, ghost hunting, between the two, it's a whole different realm and not to be taken lightly, according to this article. Entertainment media, it appears, has become the illumination of the demonic, with exorcism portrayal in books, movies, online, and television. In 2016, one show, The Exorcist, was the revamping of the original 73 movie of the same name. Reagan has grown up now with a family of her own. However, it would seem the forces of darkness never fully relinquished its hold upon her. Was it a good show? Concerning the subject of demonic influence, I felt it was spot on and somewhat disturbing, as was the movie when I saw it in the 1970s. It was moody, dark, and yes, the first episode contained the music, fog, and the solitary figure of the priest about to do battle as he stands outside the house, which was a nice touch. Is it all real, though? Very much so. The Catholic Church has long recognized the evil, or the reality of evil, demons, and possession. However, it's not a subject they will advertise, rather putting priests quietly into place to deal with it. As stated in another article, Greenwood had one of the first priests, Father Vincent Lampert, resided as the St. Francis and Clare Catholic Church on the South Side. At the time, he was one of about 50 working exorcists in the United States. His official title was Designated Exorcist for the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. I saw someone levitate once. I saw foaming at the mouth, body contortions, superhuman strength, speaking in a strange language, and howling like wild animals. Sounds like a night out on the town with Dave and Tim.
Yeah.
Regardless, he held to his faith, believing that evil was no match against the power that resides in the church founded by Jesus Christ. He was an adamant teacher in dissecting evil from the grace that Christ provides. To witness a possession he equated to visual shows of parlor tricks, meant to scare or distract us from the business at hand. I think there are a lot of people who think that exorcism is just a throwback to the Middle Ages, he stated, but lots of times it's because they don't want to think about it. They don't want to think about the reality of evil or what that evil means or entails. Evil is a reality, but that doesn't mean we should be afraid of it or hide our heads in the sand. The late Father Gabriel Amorth, a priest exorcist in Rome and chaser of demons, spent decades battling the devil and his minions by performing literally tens of thousands of exorcisms. He knew the enemy intimately, explaining many truths about the devil. The true evil is a real thing, still corrupting believers and unbelievers alike. It will continue. It's one of the many reasons I've backed off from the paranormal. Keep an eye out there, it says in this article. Evil has a new home. Darkness Radio.
I once had a thought, just once. Yeah. And it was this. Maybe we overemphasize how evil, hell may be. Maybe hell is just like Satan taking one of those butterscotch buttons and telling you got to suck on this thing until you get all the way through it. You can't bite into it. Have you ever tried to do that at all?
Bite into a butterscotch button?
Yeah, you can't do it. Just suck all the way through it.
My family loved me and never made me eat butterscotch candy.
See, that's the thing. You got to suck on one of those things and not bite into it. Because your first instinct is bite into that sucker, get rid of it, just swallow it, get rid of it. But no, hell is just forever sucking on that butterscotch button and never biting into it.
Huh. That's one take on it, I guess.
See? Yep.
All right, Tim. We are at our favorite part of the show. Our final story is here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's only my favorite part of the show because I'm tired and I've been reading for 2 hours. But it's my favorite part of the show, right after all the rest of the show. The beginning, middle, and end, of course.
Yeah.
Ziggy Marley is in the news, Tim.
He has a new album. Is it his 47th album?
The headline is, "Can we talk about the UFOs, man?" I don't know if that's literally how it was said, but Ziggy Marley's Instagram page has been awash with drama since Thursday afternoon after the Rastafarian singer posted an image and a series of statements acknowledging the existence of UFOs, which he referred to as extraterrestrial flying vehicles, EFVs, Tim. You down with EFVs?
Yeah, you know me, yeah.
According to Ziggy's statements, the government afraid to open the eyes of the people, and we need to get the whole truth, as the mass acceptance of this knowledge and truth will reset and expand the mindset of people. While he got a large number of supportive messages and even testimonies of sightings of extraterrestrial beings, there was a lot of jeering, particularly from Americans. What a surprise. Who felt the "Love Is My Religion" singer must be bonkers. Ziggy's graphic contained a grainy grayscale photograph with a black dot resembling a bug. in the center of it with the words, "Can we talk about the UFOs, extraterrestrial flying objects now? So much was happening in 2020, we could have missed it. EFO, not UFO." The Tomorrow People artist, who has more than 1.2 million followers, captioned the post. Gramps Morgan of reggae band Morgan Heritage was among the scores of followers who supported Ziggy's comments, noting, "It's real, Bretta." I'm just reading it exactly as it's written.
No,
it's real, Bretta.
I'm looking at it right now. I'm on Instagram looking at the post. Yeah.
Ziggy, who most recently teamed up with Natural Roots and Oscar-nominated Mexican actress Yelita Aparicio for a new song titled America Vibra, it just doesn't sound right, seemed to be extremely engrossed with the UFO topic as he posted several other comments and kept himself very engaged with his followers' comments. We already know life exists beyond this planet. It's just something I know. It is inborn. It's good to see it revealed through credible channels so the minds that are closed may finally be opened. He noted at one point in response to a comment from a fan that we are not alone for sure. Bretta. The multiple Grammy Award singer then went on to state that humanity needs to wake up and work together for this planet. We definitely haven't been alone, yet we are so lonely in this universe. When one fan, Laka Dana Music, stated that there were humans throughout the galaxy, Ziggy endorsed the comment, replying, "Yeah, I feel that. One humanity, we are all different, but share something common that connects us." There were some followers who found Ziggy's pronouncements absurd and made it known via sarcastic responses by mocking the 51-year-old. Legend has it that they only come to Earth to listen to reggae music, then fly back to their universe singing "Don't Worry About a Ting." That's what Oze Cryptariat jeered, while a sarcastic The Photo Native wrote, "Kind of looks like Bigfoot to me. Gotta love the BNW FLIR images. Really helps make out the details, you know?" Well, but this footage is actually from the Pentagon, this UFO FLIR image he's showing. This was from our government following and tailing this unidentified craft and talked about it, and they admitted to it this year. So all these bonehead schmucklickers that are out there saying, "Oh, yeah, oh, Bob, maybe you're smoking too much ganja."
Yeah, and he points that out in the comments of the post. I'm looking at it here. He's saying that he says in the post that this image is directly from the U.S. government, and he's going on and he's talking with different. He tries to shoot down the different people that are kind of skeptical and being asses in the post, but as he goes on, he kind of goes on a little bit of a rant and says we can stop calling them unidentified now, at least move them up to the scale of identification with the hashtag EFO or EFV, extraterrestrial flying vehicle.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. It's, I don't know, Ziggy is the one in the family that actually kind of, I know some people are going to laugh at me when I say this, but he kind of has his stuff together. He's one of the ones that actually, forged forward in the music industry and then actually got his stuff together. I mean, the rest of the family kind of is scattered and never really, got their stuff together. Ziggy's the one who's actually forged a career, and done something, The rest have kind of lived.
His dad did too. We could give him that.
Well, no, I mean after Bob passed away, Ziggy was creative. Ziggy, forged ahead and didn't necessarily live off of Bob's name. He continued to create and be his own person. So
good on him. That's what I say.
Yeah.
So it's been an active week with strange stories abounding all around the world. Want to thank everybody that contributed and were part of our world this week. Thank you very much. Remember, tomorrow we've got the live, actually tonight, I guess you could say, or no, tomorrow, Tim. Just stop questioning me, would you, Tim? Just let me finish talking, Tim.
Okay.
Tomorrow we've got our guest, and we're celebrating Valentine's a little early, Tim, with our show tomorrow, where we're going to talk about haunted ghost love stories. Isn't that romantical?
Sure.
Yeah. Haunted ghostly love stories with Chris Balzano. That's tomorrow on the program. Then tomorrow night, live video vlog chat, if you will. Darkness Radio presents Holzer's Ghosts. I'll be talking with Chris Emery about the past episode of Holzer Files Season 2, Episode 7, Forever Home, which was a chilling story and amazing evidence captured. Chris Emery not only grew up in the home, is still fascinated and almost obsessed with the home, but he has had the chance to work in the White House. We're going to find out about some of the ghosts of the White House and what he has to tell us about that as well. That's our live video stream on Darkness Radio Thursday night, and on our YouTube Darkness Radio page as well. You can watch it there. Then the audio from that will be on Friday's episode of Darkness Radio. So there you have it. That's what's going on in our world. Thanks a lot for tuning in, being a part of this with us. We will talk to you again tomorrow with more of the best in Paranormal Talk Radio. For that guy, I'm this guy, and you've been listening to the best in Paranormal Talk Radio. This is Darkness Radio.